When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Big Decisions for Anfield Index. I'm Dave Davis, coming to you from, it's chucking it down here in Edinburgh. It's absolutely miserable, but that will not tame our spirits, ladies and gents, will it at all? Because Liverpool have a perfect record going into the international break. Liverpool absolutely pumped them down the East Lancs 3-0. Liverpool have so many good things going on. Salah, Trent, Van Dijk, Slot, Gravenberch, you could name so many people who have started the season brilliantly. Maybe not Richard James, but we'll get to that shortly. So, what's on the docket for our big decisions this week, ladies and gents? Quite a few things, actually. Contracts, naturally, to talk about, and a quick reference back to the transfer window. We won't rehash that to death because a lot of people have. The first 11, the need for a squad, but is there a first 11 showing will be another big decision. Could Arne Slot have done any more at all? We'll put that on the docket as well. Is Ryan Gravenberch changing minds based on what a lot of people thought at the start of the season? And that's a fair one to bring to discussion. And then Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz is rubber and gas, and he plays for Liverpool. Yes. Is he showing a change? Is he showing something different? Is it troubled genius? Who knows? I'll put that on the big decision docket as well. But what a day it was yesterday. And even this morning, as I'm taking my little lad to work, the fellow across the road is actually a decent fella, to be honest. Yes, he is driver Paul, so he has wanker factor in there, naturally. But I did see him this morning. He is a United fan. Gave me a little knowing nod. And I did fire the arrow at him, the Mo Salah arrow. I know it's from Adesanya, but I'm now calling it the Mo Salah arrow. And yes, 42, you could tell me childish. Do I give a fuck? Not one bit. Absolutely brilliant way to start the morning. And naturally, like you, we'll be downloading and sampling as much content as I possibly can throughout the day. So, let's get into it. Big decisions. I mean, Mo Salah tore United a new one, didn't he, yesterday? A goal, 2 assists, both for Diaz's goal. Man of the match. It's almost crazy to say that Luis Diaz gets a double and he's nowhere near the man of the match award. Even as much as we're laughing at Neville and everything he said, he calls him the difference maker. Absolutely world class. It's almost taken people an age to wake up to what Mo Salah is in that regard. A world class player. And even as Carragher said yesterday at the end, in the conversation for the greatest winger in Premier League history, how are people just waking up to this? But they're waking up to something we know for so long. Leave it with them. But that's not the big decision I'm talking about realistically. Because it mainly includes Salah, and he triggered it yesterday, didn't he, for obvious reasons. And we'll go through what was said. But also the others at the same time. The big 3 players in our team, and Alisson, I would say, the other one, the big 4, but there's 3 big ones that are within 12 months. So the big decision is, what the fuck is going on with Hughes? Naturally, you can say Michael Edwards is involved in this. He doesn't have a multi-club to worry about, but with the overall strategy. And somebody's going to jump out at this point and say, you don't know what goes behind the scenes and what they're talking about. I no one does. But just because people can't then use that as a negative doesn't mean it's all positive at the same time. You have to apply it to yourself in that argument as well. But let's go through what Mo Salah said. So he was asked at the end, and he was checking about his performance, but he actually brought it up himself. Let's be clear on that. So as you know, it's my last year in the club. I just want to enjoy it. I don't even want to think about it. And then there was a bit more talk, and Dave Jones, Sky Sport presenter, asked him about it again. We said, well, no one in the club has talked to me yet about a contract. So I say it's my last season. A new deal, it's not up to me, but no one has spoken to me at the club. Which obviously set alarm bells ringing galore, didn't it? Like, why has no one spoke to him? The bit of mitigation I can put up for them if I was defence attorney would be Salah's injuries last season, the drop-off in form, that type of thing. You can understand why they maybe just held off a little bit for someone. And let's be honest on this. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people I speak to, are also now, I understand, saying you've got to get the contract in front of him, like me, also had it as, is now the right time in the summer. They did. That's just honest. You might have been one of those, you might not. Who knows? People were, is he going to get back to him? What's the knock-on effect of that double injury? Because he was one of those players that was injured, then re-injured again. You've got to put that on the docket. So that was a factor. But just to be clear, the season has started, and Mo Salah has 3 goals and 3 assists. 6 goal contributions in 3 games. Unbelievable. And then the Mel Reddy tweet comes out, doesn't it? Who, no one's really got much from Salah, nothing from Salah's camp. He said he's not want to talk about it. Rami's been quiet, etc. But then that tweet comes out, and it reads, my understanding is Mo Salah's preference is to remain at Liverpool, but it's not his job to push for that. His performances speak for itself. Salah believes he still has a few years left at the highest level, competing for top prizes while breaking records. It is significant that no one at Liverpool has approached him yet to discuss a new contract. Why would the club wait so long to start the process if they want to keep Salah? Interesting. A new buddy like me will be thinking, where's the source of that quote? Because the Salah camp, and it's a small circle, hasn't given anything away. So it's also funny, isn't it, that at the end of the game, everyone clocks that hug from Salah to Mel Reddy, who then tweets very shortly after that as well. Interesting, that, isn't it? So, yeah. 2 and 2, but get 27, who knows? But a lot of questions in that regard. So there's that. You also then think of who's spoken about the contracts or what's been said. So we know the Salah thing, and obviously alarm bells are ringing. Let's be clear. Red alert, everything, DEFCON 4, get Salah a contract in front of him. Well, I think most people are at that stage. There's no doubts about it. Then you think back to Virgil, who's talked about openly pretty much giving the biggest hint he can, wanting to stay, but also being honest when asked by journos. No new contract has been put in front of him. He's been crystal clear on that. Trent, we've heard nothing from. The only sort of 2 parts we've had around Trent are the reported patch journo briefing around wants to be respectful for the club, doesn't want it to play out in public. And the various, rumours and all that type of thing around Real Madrid, Trent McManaman has been spoken about. But, the various things, even rumours at one point, wasn't there around 300 grand a week? Suspicion about where those came from. Even yesterday, and people will dismiss the name of Fabrizio Romano, and I'm not saying this is right, but don't forget, Romano's got a few things right with Liverpool this summer. He had the Chiesa exclusive. You have to be factual about that. Said that in his tweet, and to be fair, there's a few aggregators picked this up, but Liverpool, now the transfer window shut, are now going to start talks with all 3. Which you're also thinking that, and I want to be clear on this, because I did a few Media Matters pods with different journos who said and wrote articles, because it's clearly a club briefing, that the priority for Richard Hughes, or one of the priorities at first, was Trent's contract. That was one of the first priorities. Quite a few wrote that article. You cannot escape that at all. And now we're potentially hearing none of them been spoken to. Which all comes back to a big decision in with the way the transfer window went, what the fuck is going on in that boardroom at the moment? Now, I'm not uneducated to think that Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards are just, playing Sudoku or throwing Ferrero Rochers at each other. Don't get me wrong. I know that sounds flippant. I know it's really. It's not about that. But it is right to have concerns, isn't it? Those three are our biggest stars, along with Alisson. They have started the season unbelievably well. Unbelievably well. It's right to be concerned now. In a few months' time, they can actually have discussions, can't they, with random clubs? Was it random, overseas clubs? As he starts and agree the pre-contract, as it's called. There's not long to sort this out. And people will say this is dramatic, but if the contracts aren't agreed by them, and it doesn't have to be done instantly, yeah, it'd be a great build-up during the international break, we'd all love it, but if the contracts aren't done by then, I think it's right, and this is my big decision, to ask massive, massive questions of Richard Hughes and whoever's helping him around that. It almost feels, and there's a strangeness to this. By design, aren't they? They're doing this. These are shrewd operators. These are savvy guys. They know how to organise teams and do things, despite what anyone says. But it's right to be worried. That's my big decision. As much as everything on the pitch is great going into the international break, you can't argue that at all. You're worried, aren't you? You might not be. You might be relaxed. You might think some of them get done. I still think some of them will get done. I understand that. But time's ticking. And we also have the record of thinking stuff will get done in the transfer window. Late on, Richard Hughes promised us a crescendo. We did not get that. So it is natural to be worried. You might not be as worried. You may be red alert, DEFCON 4. That is your big decision about the three situations. Before already, there's that guy who tweets me to say, telling you what to say. No, the whole premise of this show is we look at both sides and then invite you to make your own decision. I make my representations for both sides, and then you make the call. So you will decide what your big decision is on that. Oofed. Second item on the docket, ladies and gents. Is there a first 11 under Arne Slot becoming clear? Now, the natural things to throw into this are, after the international break, 7 in 22 days, cups start up, Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Sunday, all those rotation elements. So rotation and senior players will be needed, zero doubt at all. Yeah, or everyone's going to have to come to the party. But I'm arguing it's starting to feel really clear who's in a first 11. Yes, people get injuries, you throw that in the mix. But all things being equal, which I know they never are, but you like what you've seen in terms of we're keeping players fit at the moment. I think it's starting to get obvious. And Alex, there's some players that aren't debate, like Alisson, Trent, Robbo, clearly. BVD's always going to be one. Konate now, back clearly the second choice. That doesn't mean Quansah's terrible. I know he had a few bits in that first half at Ipswich, but I think it's quite clear now. And understandable, Konate's lucky. He was imperious again, wasn't he? Slammed in a few times. Just careful in his passing, which I really liked as well. So you've got that. The midfield now as well, and we'll sort of save Ryan Gravenberch a little bit, but he's in there. So Bosley and McAllister, intelligent footballers at the same time. Curtis Jones, I think, would be the alternate or push them, but obviously injuries again. It's always just feels like whenever Curtis gets something going, there's a minor knock, a strain, something, doesn't it? And you just wonder, what impact is that going to end up having on his overall Liverpool career? Because you have to be honest about what you've seen so far, that it's brilliant at times and it's really good, and then it's always injuries and it takes him a little time to build up, but there's been a lot of them. You cannot pretend anything different. So that midfield's starting to look pretty refined. And if you look at the others, Endo he clearly doesn't fancy. You cannot debate that. Tyler Morton was for sale. He was close to being done to Leverkusen. You kind of get the impression that because another midfielder didn't come in, he will get opportunities, and good luck to him, and I hope he does well. But you can't pretend he was forcing anywhere near the first 11. That's what we're talking about here. And then Harvey Elliott's the interesting one. because he didn't get on yesterday, didn't play a single minute. In 3 games, 7 minutes, Harvey Elliott played. And that was cover for Mo Salah, really, wasn't it, against Brentford? Came on the right wing. Oh, and by the way, Diaz is now here. So he'll be the second, let's be honest, we'll suspect he'll be the second choice right winger. So that then makes you wonder, where does Harvey Elliott fit in? And I know people, and I understand this, it's probably my inkling, will go, he's the backup for Szoboszlai. I just wonder, though, about Harvey Elliott. The big thing he's got against him is a lack of legs and physicality. You know, he's an intelligent footballer, great technically, no debates about that. But you see it in these games. Slot talks about duels and winning duels. Talks about physicality. Yesterday, McAllister bullies Mainu off the ball. Gravenberch intercepted a few times, burst away. You see their physicality. Same with Szoboszlai all over. Harvey Elliott cannot bring that. He has so many talents, but I do start to wonder, and it's interesting. John Barnes did a piece where he said, he thinks technical footballers like Jones and Elliott will thrive. This isn't saying Harvey Elliott's, anything bad. I think he's a bit away from that first 11. I wouldn't be surprised if Curtis Jones is the first alternate in that midfield and Harvey pushes up. Yes, rotation, yes, games, yes, he will get opportunities and all that. But I would argue there's a first 11 starting to become clear. And then you talk the forwards.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha! This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Diaz and Salah have been brilliant so far. They're on the team sheet. Jota knits it well. He got a goal, obviously, in the first game. Even yesterday, where he wasn't brilliant by his standards, there was that move, wasn't it, where did you see him bark at Szoboszlai to go behind on the left? It's just that tactical intelligence, wasn't it, to create that overload on the back post. He likes that. We like that. Everyone like that. So you do just start to think then, and you probably think, there's quality and depth, don't get me wrong. Because then you got Kwanzaa Gomez, centre-backs. Tsimikas, okay-ish. Bradley, brilliant. Midfield, you got Endo, Jones, Elliott. You could throw a Morton. Young Trey can get in there. But I would argue the first three and injuries and stuff can happen. I get it. But that way. And then even the forward line. Nunes got a few minutes. Gakpo got a few minutes. Chiesa's got to get fit naturally as well. It'll be so interesting to see what he does. I suspect he's got plans rather than just being a small Salah alternate. Before everyone, and I think this, I know people talked about it's great if he can rotate 10, 15 games. Chiesa did play 37 times last season for Juve. Yeah, over 2,500 minutes. He'll have ambitions, but he might be trying to change this, which I have no problem with at all. And maybe Diaz has responded to that challenge, or however you put it. But my argument is, as per this point on the docket, I just think you're starting to see a first choice 11 where everyone's fit, which last season had no hope. But maybe just this season under Slot and Ruben Peter, we hope so. You'll see those first choice players at the right time on the pitch. But you will make your call on that. Anyway, the next part of the docket, ladies and gents, could Arne Slot have done any more? Let's just put some stats out there for you. He becomes the first manager to win his first meeting with United at Old Trafford since Bob Paisley in 75. And actually, I got it wrong, sorry, because Paisley won it at Anfield. The last Liverpool boss to win that trip to his first one to Old Trafford was George Kay in 1936. And he not only won it, he absolutely pulled Ten Hag's pants down, polished it behind, and spanked it hard. No two ways about it at all. You also think his start to the season. I mean, we've had the most shots, 37. We've got the highest XG for 5.3 and the lowest XG against 1. Yeah. You have to go back to 2007. He's the first manager to win his first 3 Premier League games without conceding a single goal. And there's a nicety to this stat because the other manager who did that back in 2007 was a man who got his dream to step out of Anfield, Sven. So yeah, R.I.P. Sven. But there's a niceness to that, isn't there, at the same time? You also think that Arne Slot's team have scored 7, maximum points, 3 clean sheets. What more could Arne Slot do? I think you'd be absolutely splitting hairs at this stage, wouldn't you? I'm going to put that for me, it's a perfect start for Slot. And because of the backdrop of what he's coming into, you've got to just steam in. You've got to get the players on side. You've got to do certain things quick in terms of your tactics, or certain things slowly. I also think, which I suspected, I have to be honest, that it would take a bit of time. I thought the first few games we might rely on individual brilliance because it'll take time for patterns of play, things to come in. Let's be clear, we can see how a Slot team functions. We see that out of possession, that 4-2-4, yeah? Szoboszlai especially pressing up, the difficulty teams are having with that. We see in possession almost like a 4-2-3-1, but sometimes I know, like Szoboszlai, as he said, moved left yesterday as well. You are seeing the patterns of play already on. You can almost say that's a Slot team goal. We've seen those at the same time. So even in this short period of time, he's implementing his style on the team. And the other thing that's becoming clear, he's a great communicator. There's a strong will. There's a robustness behind him, isn't there? Even yesterday, he talked about it when he was interviewed afterwards, clear in what he did. And, everyone wanted to go down the line of, oh, it's precise. Oh, it's this. And, it's brilliant. Pick things up, didn't he? He did say, when the clean sheets was asked, it was pleasing, although in the second half we needed Alisson, which we did, a couple of saves there. In an ideal situation, he is only there to play out of the back. It was good that we kept control of the game. And even during that game, Trent comes off. People can obviously read too much into that. You'll have your opinion on it, but he gave the big smile, didn't he? The 3-0. But it was a good sign of who is the boss a little bit. And even after the game, you think, Trent's been brilliant. Diaz has been brilliant. Still happy to say, isn't he, publicly, like, Luis Diaz was losing the ball quite a bit and Trent plays that silly pass with his left foot. Still happy to reference where we could or where we have gone wrong. There's almost an iron will to Slot there, isn't it? And direct communicator, confident but an excellent communicator. He really is. And down the line, it's a season. Some things will not go right and there'll be people ask questions. I understand that. But at this moment in time, right now, could Slot have done any more? I think based on the backdrop, based on what he's coming into, you are absolutely splitting hairs if you think any more. But you will have your own opinion on that, ladies and gents. There we go. Ryan Gravenberch as well. Is Ryan Gravenberch changing minds? I'm going to argue yes for this, by the way. I'm going to say Ryan Gravenberch is massively, massively changing minds. I think at the start of this season, people would be always an alternate. And I think a few have said on different pods for us, struggled to see where he gets in at times as well. Where does he get his minutes? Obviously, the Zubimendi situation. Now, Ryan Gravenberch has come in and in 3 games, first half aside from Ipswich, far better in the second half, been absolutely sensational. Even let's start with yesterday when I was doing reverse order. I mean, against United, 56 touches, 7 duels won, 6 possessions regained, 4 interceptions, which was the most, 3 fouls won, which was the most, and won 2 out of 2 tackles. Absolutely immense. And you think about yesterday, just to be clear on that, because I was talking about the 6, it was more an 8 yesterday. We've got to be honest about that. But McAllister, if you look at the heat maps and the stats, was often the deepest midfielder. And if you think of what Gravenberch did really well, even for that first goal, isn't he? He steps in to intercept that Casemiro pass, runs it, knocks it for Mo to play the cross. Even the disallowed first goal, it's him driving forward, isn't it? And then laying it off to Luis Diaz. A lot of his stuff was on the front foot, wasn't it? Realistically. So, being aggressive in that sense, which was a theme for the Liverpool team, but definitely not a sitting 6 by any means. Definitely not a Fabinho style. Let's not pretend that. I would argue more of an 8 yesterday. Almost Kante-ish, I'd say at times, but in a different way. But very good on the ball. Excellent. Even if you think about Brentford as well, he got the most passes with 72, the most tackles with 3, and the most recoveries with 8. Ryan Gravenberch is rightly in the first 11 at the moment. Still got stuff to prove. Kind of hope, let's be honest, that Koeman is stupid enough to keep him out the team as well. I mean, he didn't play a single minute in Euros. Maybe that's part of his hunger. Who knows? And maybe Slot's revigorating him that way. That could potentially be a part of it. I don't know. I don't know enough about Ryan Gravenberch. But so many positives for him at the moment. And he deserves all his flowers. He deserves all his praise. He looked a level above everyone in United's midfield, and some of those cost a fortune, pardon my French. So, could only, as Roy Walker said, say what you see. And so far, my big decision, Ryan Gravenberch is changing minds. I'll be honest, because I know some people are see some of the tweets this morning, honestly, from people, you all said this about Ryan Gravenberch. The hypocrisy. I'm generally seeing it from accounts I know tweeting about, we need a 6, Gravenberch isn't good enough, etc. at the start of the season. And to be honest, that's up to people to do what they want. But I'll be honest and say I had a few doubts, and it doesn't mean he's totally had a brilliant season, but so far, again, a bit like Slot, I don't see how he could really do any more. And you've got to put an expectation of him that probably didn't expect to be playing the role he's been playing at the start of the season. So, yeah, so much to like about Ryan Gravenberch. There really is. And the final one, ladies and gents, is Luis Diaz starting to show a huge change in what you expect. You think back, because last season, wasteful, along with Núñez, you have to be honest, the most wasteful of the forwards, 8 Premier League goals. Like that almost City one he missed, didn't he, in the draw at Anfield? That summed him up. You wondered what he'd be like under Slot this season. Could he get, and David Lynch talked about this, just 4 or 5 more goals out of him to really change it. He'd never be a Sadio Mane. Some start to the season, but again, mixed though, isn't it, at the same time? You think against Ipswich, won 5 out of 5 take-ons. Especially in the second half, he was dominant, really, wasn't he? He was a threat massively for us. We were really impressed. And then he misses that sitter. Then he genuinely misses that sitter. At which point you're thinking, oh, God, is it going to be one of those seasons where, it could just be one of them. Then Brentford comes. Unbelievable. Goal, brilliant finish, played through, clever run, controlled finish with his weaker foot. You're like, hey up, this could be a change. and a great assist for Mo Salah. So that's good. And then he comes to yesterday. And this is strange because it's right to eulogise a player that gets a double at Old Trafford, gets back-to-back double goal contributions, doesn't he? Because a goal and assist Brentford, 2 goals here. Totally right to eulogise, for that. And yet, he gave the ball away so often in that first half at 0-0. I was going bad with it. It seemed to just break down when it hit Diaz. It really did with his passing, decision-making. Oh, is he going to have one of those days? And I'm absolutely glad saying this now. Rammed it back down my throat so hard. Delighted to say that. But at the same time, Slot mentioned it, didn't he? Slot talked about, didn't track back for one of those in the interviews, was giving the ball away a lot, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So if you think about it, 4 goal contributions so far this season in 3 games is brilliant. And back-to-back multiple contributions, or dual contributions in goal and assist Brentford, 2 goals here, brilliant. And listen, we'll ride that wave. It's not we're asking him to be perfect. Christ, if he gets 2 goals, he can just keep playing like this every game. It will be interesting, though, isn't it? Because if you think last season, and I'm talking about harping back to last season, but in his first 2 games, he had 2 goals. People forget that, don't they? 1-1 draw against Chelsea, he scored. Scored the opener. Almost 3-1 win the first home game. He scores the first goal out of the side scissors volley. Looks a little bit different this time, I would argue. The header was controlled and the swivel finish was a bit more controlled, even though it was an unbelievable pass from Mo Salah. Yeah. Interesting, eh? Very interesting. So we will see again how Luis Diaz gets on, because there's been so much talk this summer. But is he starting to show a complete change? Starting, yes. Again, and it's 3 games and people will talk sample size. But we're liking what we see. You're almost hoping, in a weird way, international break could not come at a worse time for us, could it? But, yeah, your decision. Is Luis Diaz showing that complete change? The signs are promising, as they are for a lot of players. And listen, we could talk about a million things, wouldn't we? Oh, that's a Bosline miss. I'd be fuming yesterday. But he was brilliant. Trent, you could go through so many. Even McAllister, in a funny way. So good. Almost the unheralded man of the team. Such a football intelligence. The other 2 have got better legs, but he's got the intelligence. Even that win against Kobe Mainoo to start the 3rd goal. There's just so much to like about this club on the field. Now, some absolute people who just sort out some contracts, we are all good. Will it be done in international break? Hard to believe. It'd just be nice if one was done, wouldn't it, realistically? But let's see what happens. But the ultimate big decision, if you cannot be happy with everything about the Reds now, I get someone's going to argue about contracts, but you should be buzzing. We've just won at Old Trafford 3-0 convincingly. Maximum number of points, not 1 goal conceded, 3 clean sheets. So much to be happy about. But there you go, ladies and gents. Shitty international break to get through before we get Forest back on the road. But from me, Dave Davis, now some of the big decisions at Anfield Index.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.